Hello everyone and welcome back. 안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. This is Jiwon and you are listening to Understanding Korea one story at a time, where we talk about Korean history, culture, and the very specific ways they quietly shape our everyday lives. Today's story starts with a sentence I say so often at restaurants that it's basically become muscle memory. No ice, please. And the funny part is, I don't even always decide to say it. Sometimes it's already halfway out of my mouth before my brain arrives to approve the decision. It's automatic. Part of it is practical too. Sometimes they bring a big glass of ice water before you've even had a chance to ask. And I feel awkward sending it back, like I'm creating extra work over something small. So instead, I lead with the request. I say it early. I say it fast. I say it like I'm trying to get ahead of the ice. Which brings us to today's episode, warmth. Not the warm, fuzzy feelings kind. The literal, physical, keep your belly covered, don't drink cold water kind. If you read my Substack post this week titled No Ice Please, a Korean mom's guide to warmth, think of this episode as the companion piece. The essay was the distilled version, the clean narrative, the sharp contrasts, the small everyday moments that quietly reveal something much bigger. The podcast is where we get to do what podcasts do best: linger, add the texture, add the backstory, add extra rooms to the house. So even if you've already read the post, I want you to walk away with something new today. Something you can feel in your own body the next time you order a drink, or talk in a child, or hear someone say, "Don't catch a chill." 찬바람 쐬지 마. Let me start where the essay started, with the CDC. Their latest flu view update said something like seasonal influenza activity remains elevated nationally. Some states got better, Washington got worse. But what I want to emphasize here in a spoken story is this: a flu map is not just information. A flu map is a forecast. A flu map is a mood. When you're a parent and the map turns red, it doesn't stay on the internet. It moves into your house. It stands by your child's bed. It hums in the background while you're washing tiny spoons and checking tiny foreheads. It changes how you pack a backpack. It changes how you decide whether you are going to that birthday party. About a month and a half ago, I wrote my first post of the year and mentioned my daughter had been sick. At the time, I didn't realize I was also launching a recurring series titled The Child Gets Sick Again. This time it hit fast: high fever, vomiting, headache, the symptoms that make you grab your keys with one hand and your phone with the other, already rehearsing the urgent care check in speech in your head. And we went for a flu test because last time we went too late for Tamiflu, and I was still mad about it, like I had missed the train. Last time, my daughter got sick before our neighbor's kid did. She suffered for nearly 2 weeks. Then the neighbor's kid caught it later, had almost the same symptoms, and their family did what we didn't do at the beginning. They went in right away. Watching my daughter struggle made them act fast. They got Tamiflu early, and their child bounced back quickly. My husband and I looked at that and thought, if we'd taken our daughter in sooner, she wouldn't have had to go through all that. We both did a little round of self blame. So this time, the moment my daughter's symptoms showed up, I did what our neighbors did. I went straight in. The test came back negative, and the doctor looked genuinely puzzled. She said my daughter was the fourth patient that day who presented exactly like the flu, but tested negative. Then I messaged my daughter's teacher to explain the absence, and the reply came back with the weary solidarity of someone inside the same storm. Lots of kids were out, and the teacher herself had been sick too. And thankfully, compared to the long, grinding illness of last month, my daughter recovered quickly. By day 4, she was energetic again. We didn't end up getting Tamiflu, but the doctor did prescribe medicine for the nausea and vomiting. And we honestly think that made a real difference. So, yes, next time she gets sick, we are going straight to the clinic. But as I watched her bounce back, I noticed something about myself that felt deeply Korean. Outside of the 3 to 4 glorious months when the Pacific Northwest turns into a postcard, the sentence I say most to my daughter is dress warmly. And that's where the real story begins. If you grew up in a Korean household, or married into one, or have Korean friends with kids, you've probably heard one of these lines. Don't stand in the cold wind. Don't drink cold water. Put on socks. Eat something warm. Even when the fever breaks, the care doesn't stop. This is the thing. In a Korean caregiving mindset, the doctor can say she's fine, and the caregiver hears she's fragile. Not fragile as in weak, fragile as in still recovering, still vulnerable to the wrong breeze, the wrong temperature, the wrong moment. And this is where I want to slow down and name something. A lot of cultural misunderstandings happen because we think we are debating facts when we are actually debating frameworks. In the American medical system, temperature is basically a number you measure, a symptom you manage, a variable you control with acetaminophen, ibuprofen, fever reducers. It's mechanical, observable, documentable. When your child is sick, you learn the language of metrics. What's the temperature numerically? How many ounces of fluid? How many hours since the last dose? Are symptoms improving or worsening? It's not cold. It's not hot. It's 101. It's 102. It's documented. But in the Korean framework I inherited, temperature is something else entirely. Temperature is a state of balance, a measure of vulnerability, a clue about whether your inside is holding steady. And the language gives it away. Koreans don't just talk about being cold. We talk about changi, cold energy. And cold energy sounds mystical in English, but in Korean, it doesn't feel mystical. It feels practical, like something you can actually catch, like dust, like pollen, like a draft that slips under the door. It's chilly, and more something got in. We don't just say, I'm tired. We say, we have no 기운. You will hear it everywhere. 기운이 없어. 기운이 없다. 기운 좀 내. In English, you might translate that as I have no energy, but that translation is too thin. 기운 is not a mood. It's closer to vitality, life force, the animating current that makes you feel like yourself. So when a Korean mother says your stomach needs to stay warm, she's not talking about surface temperature. She's talking about the integrity of your core. Warmth isn't just the comfort. Warmth is defense. And honestly, once you see this, you see it everywhere, even in the most ordinary choices. Now, let's talk about water. In America, iced water arrives like a national ideology. It shows up uninvited. It's free. It's abundant. It's proud of itself. Like, here, have the coldest possible water. You're welcome. And then there's me. sitting there politely, smiling, trying to negotiate peace terms with a cup. No ice, please. Why? Because I don't like the idea of cold water chilling my stomach. Of course, when it's really hot outside, I will drink cold water too. I will even chill other drinks on purpose. But American restaurants often take it to another level. Sometimes the glass is packed with ice first, and then the water is poured on top. And when it's my daughter, still little, drinking it like that, I feel strangely hesitant. Because when it comes to children, culture gets louder. You don't just do what you like, you do what you believe is protective. And if you've never lived in Korea, you might not understand how deeply temperature is woven into what Koreans consider basic sense. It's not even dramatic, it's not even a big statement. It's closer to, of course, you don't give ice to a child who just got sick. Why would you do that? Which is exactly why this is fascinating, because it's not a debate, it's a reflex. And the most revealing cultural things are often the ones you don't feel like you're choosing. In American pediatric home care guidance, cold foods can be perfectly reasonable comfort measure for sore throats. Popsicles, ice cream, cold liquids, sometimes it's soothing. My daughter has absolutely internalized this information. A doctor once told her popsicles could help, and later she asked me, with the confidence of someone citing case law, why I wasn't providing the prescribed treatment. And she was not wrong. I simply refused to comply. An American parent hears popsicles and thinks, great, easy calories, hydration, everyone wins. A Korean grandmother hears popsicles and thinks, are you trying to raise this child inside the refrigerator? I'm exaggerating slightly, but only slightly. Because Korean care is not only about soothing symptoms, it's about guarding equilibrium, protecting 기운. That's why Koreans say things like 기운이 없어. I have no energy. 속이 차. My insides feel cold. 찬 기운이 들었어. Cold energy got into me. Notice how physical the language is. We talk like engineers, like plumbers. Something got in. Something is blocked. Something is cold inside. Something is depleted. The cultural point is this. In that grammar, cold is not merely a temperature. Cold is a force, a disruptor, a thief. Warmth is not just comfort. Warmth is protection. Warmth is restoration. Warmth is the house doing medicine. Here is where the podcast can add something the essay didn't fully have time for: the idea of care as environment building. In the American model, temperature is a number you monitor. In the Korean model, temperature is something you offer. You don't just take the child's temperature, you make the environment warm. You wrap the body, you boil water, you build a small climate of safety around someone who is fragile. Warmth is care you can see. It is labor that leaves evidence. A blanket tucked tighter, a bowl of warm porridge, socks that appear on your feet as if summoned by ancestral instinct. Okay, now let's talk about the undershirt. My daughter recently told me none of her friends wears an undershirt. For context, most of her close friends have no connection to Korean whatsoever. In Korean households, that undershirt, 내복 or 메리아스, is not a garment. It's a preventative strategy. It's the thing your mother makes you wear under your clothes because the belly must be protected. My daughter has an almost comical number of undershirts, partly because I only see my mom about once a year, and every time we meet, she arrives with more. Sometimes we meet in Korea, But more often, our family meets somewhere else and travels together. And somehow, even then, my mom still packs Korean undershirts in her suitcase and brings them across borders like they are essential supplies. She will say, very matter of factly, that Korean makes the best underwear. And the funny thing is, my mom isn't someone who's sheltered. She lived abroad for a long time. She's traveled everywhere. But on this one point, she's unwavering. If you are going to take care of a child, you start with a good Korean undershirt. And when my daughter changes clothes around other kids at the pool, it's almost comical. She's often the only child in an undershirt, including in summer. Yes, including in summer. So I asked my Korean friends who have kids. Every single one, whether they have sons or daughters, said the same thing. Of course, you make them wear it. Why wouldn't you? And when I was growing up, I heard some version of this sentence so many times, it might as well have been printed on my birth certificate. Your belly should always be warm. Okay, speaking of belly warmth, I have to tell you about this hilarious moment from a Korean reality dating show called 환승연애, or Exchange in English. It's basically Korean Love Island, but with exes. So in season 4, there's this guy who is a Korean medicine doctor, a 한의사, and one of the women shows up to a date wearing a crop top. And the first thing this guy says on camera in front of everyone is your belly shouldn't be cold. The producers are laughing, the other cast members are dying. Even the woman is like, is this guy serious? But he is serious because, in his worldview, cold belly isn't just uncomfortable, it's a health risk, and he can't turn that off, even on a date. That's how deep this runs. It's not just something your mom says, it's a cultural reflex. And here's the thing, if you look at Korean traditional medicine, keeping your belly warm isn't just an old wives' tale, it's foundational medical knowledge. And I want to pause here and say something gently, especially for listeners who are Korean adoptees or diaspora or people who didn't grow up in Korean households but still feel something familiar in their body. Sometimes culture is not what you know in your head. Sometimes culture is what your body recognizes. That's why I loved hearing from listeners who tell me I grew up far from Korea and yet I know exactly what you mean. Because the body holds patterns, the body holds rhythms, the body holds an emotional climate. And when you hear a phrase like 빨리빨리 or don't catch a chill, you don't just understand it intellectually. You remember it somatically. So here's my question for you. Wherever you are, whatever your background, what are the care rules you inherited? The things your parents or grandparents insisted on? Maybe it's about food or cleaning. Maybe it's about tidying up or sleep routines or when and how you're supposed to exercise. Maybe there are ways you take care of your body, little tips and habits that you didn't even realize were cultural until you found yourself trying to explain them to someone who looked at you like you're speaking another language. I think all of us carry these invisible scripts, and sometimes it's worth asking, where did this come from? And what does it say about how my culture understands care? For me, it's warmth. For you, it might be something else. Next week, we are going to dig into the why behind this hit. I'll be diving into the medical and cultural history of Korea's warmth obsession, looking at ancient texts like the 동의보감 to understand how this fixation on warmth was actually rooted in the cutting-edge medical facts of the time. These traditions still have so much to teach us today. If you have seen K-pop Demon Hunters, you might recall the Korean medicine doctor 한 의사, explaining that we must look at the whole rather than just the isolated parts. That is exactly how 한의학 or Korean traditional medicine operates. As someone who deeply loves this holistic approach, I believe it offers a perspective that is more relevant than ever in our modern world. Thank you so much for listening today. If you want to read the full essay version of this episode, head over to my Substack. The essay is called No Eyes Please, A Korean Mom's Guide to Warmth. And if you are enjoying this podcast, please consider sharing it with someone who might find it interesting. Word of mouth is how small podcasts like this one grow. Take care and I will see you next week. 오늘도 들어주셔서 감사합니다. 다음 주에 만나요. Bye!